Morning, everybody. Yesterday, we had all of the documentation and audio files released from Jody Wilson-Raybould, and it was released unredacted by the committee. I have not had time to go through the written stuff yet, but I wanted to show you this. This was the response from the Prime Minister's office to Mr. Wernick's and Ms. Wilson-Raybould's phone call being made public. I didn't know. So here's the response, and then I'm going to let you hear some of the phone call from yesterday, because it doesn't jibe, it doesn't coincide, it doesn't make sense. Here's Katie Simpson from the CBC reporting, quote, "New statement from the Prime Minister's office. The Prime Minister was not briefed by the clerk on his conversation with Jody Wilson-Raybould, and we were unaware of the full contents of the recording before today. As the Prime Minister said in his statement, he should have spoken directly with the former Justice Minister and Attorney General about this matter, and he wishes that she had come to him. As has been made clear through the various testimonies, and as the Prime Minister said, there was clearly an erosion of trust over the past few months and between the PMO, the Clerk of the Privy Council, and the former Justice Minister and Attorney General. The Prime Minister took responsibility for the situation and announced several next steps, including external opinions on a number of things as they relate to a set of issues raised over the past few weeks. All of the facts are on the table now, and everyone involved has shared their perspective, including the Prime Minister. We are focused on moving forward as a team on the issues that matter to Canadians and governing in the best interest of the country." When did the Prime Minister give his perspective? When did he do that? Here's Mr. Wernick talking with Ms. Wilson-Raybould. Does this sound like a guy who's not going to brief the Prime Minister on the contents of this conversation? And like 15 days later, on January 14th, Ms. Wilson-Raybould was shuffled out of cabinet after saying, "Oh, I know how the Prime Minister gets what he wants. I understand. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. I get it."
Well, I don't, I'm going to have to report back on, I think, before he leaves. He's in a pretty firm frame of mind about this, though, so I'm a bit worried.
Bit worried about what?
Well, it's not a good idea for the Prime Minister and his Attorney General to be at loggerheads.
So I thought the way she says "worried about what" is very interesting. She's clearly laying a trap. No, like, you're watching a horror movie and people are like, "Oh, let's split up. You go downstairs and I'll go upstairs." And you're like, the lights are off. Nobody's splitting up when the lights are off in a horror movie. Everybody's splitting up when the lights are off in a horror movie. But this is clearly a trap. Why are you worried, Mr. Wernick? Do tell. Please, could you speak louder into this microphone lapel microphone? Flower? Right? So that doesn't sound like a guy who's not going to report back to Mr. Trudeau right after this conversation. Hold on, here's another one. Okay, here's Mr. Wernick again saying, "I just saw him a few hours ago. This is really, really important to him. He's not going to be happy about this." So on the one hand, he says, "I'm going to have to report to him before he leaves. He's leaving in a few hours." And on the other, he says, "I just saw him. This is super important." Does this sound like a guy who's not in close contact? He's the chief of the Privy Council. Like, this person is in constant communication with the Prime Minister. He forgot to mention this. And then they said 2 weeks later, "Oh, did you talk to Ms. Wilson-Raybould about that whole SNC thing? Is she going to budge on that?" "No, I'll just shuffle her out of cabinet." Or he didn't ask you about that and he just shuffled her out of cabinet. Does that make any sense? Here he is talking again about how in such close communication he is with the Prime Minister.
Okay. All right, but I'm worried about a collision then, because he's pretty firm about this. I just saw him a few hours ago, and this is really important to him. And okay, I don't know. There's not much more.
Yesterday, I talked about using dead air. I just wanted to illustrate that again, right? He was expecting a response. He's saying like, we can't possibly do this. Really important to him. Blah 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 blah. Expecting her to say, oh my goodness, I didn't know, I didn't understand, blah blah. And she's just sitting there waiting because she doesn't care, and she's waiting for him to further incriminate himself, further say something he doesn't want released like this, right? Because this makes him look terrible, but also makes the Prime Minister look terrible. So again, the Clerk of the Privy Council, I just talked to him. I have to brief him before he leaves. And yet, they're saying Michael Wernick never briefed Trudeau that he spoke with Wilson-Raybould. And Lisa Raitt's tweeting, "No one believes this. No one believes this. I don't believe this. It's trash." So this is Global News reporting. Michael Wernick never briefed Trudeau that he spoke with Wilson-Raybould, PMO. The Prime Minister's office is just lying through the press now. The Prime Minister's office, PMO, said the Clerk of the Privy Council Office, PCO, never briefed Justin Trudeau on his talk with ex-Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould that was captured on a recording released on Friday. In a statement to Global News, the PMO said that it was, quote, unaware of the full contents of this recording before today. The statement emerged amid the release of a recording in which Wilson-Raybould could be heard telling Michael Wernick, the outgoing clerk of the Privy Council, of the PCO, which is the Privy Council, that she was concerned about the appearance of political interference if she were to override the Director of Public Prosecutions and offer SNC Lavallee a deferred prosecution agreement, a DPA. And I scroll down. In the statement, the PMO said the Prime Minister, quote, should have spoken directly with the former Justice Minister and Attorney General about this matter and wished that she had come to him. The PMO went on to say that there was, quote, clearly an erosion of trust over the past few months between PMO, the Clerk of the Privy Council, and the former Justice Minister and Attorney General. The PMO concluded by saying, all the facts are on the table now and everyone involved has shared their perspective, including the Prime Minister. We are focused on moving forward as a team on the issues that matter to Canadians and governing in the best interest of the country. I hate to tell you guys. No, I don't hate to tell you. I will tell you, though. SNC is of interest to most Canadians and is a matter of governing the country in the best way. Because if you are doing what it looks like you're doing, which is giving a deal to your crony buddies, setting up a two-tiered legal system, and putting pressure on the Attorney General and then replacing her when she said no to your illegal demands, Canadians should know about that. Canadians should have a full-blown national conversation about that. Canadians should probably have you step down while that national conversation is happening and have an interim temporary leader in place as well. Because, man, there's some conflict of interest going on here, it seems. But, according to Trudeau, that's it. Case closed. No problem. Just like last week when he said, everything's been done. We're going to shut down the committee, and everybody said what they need to say. We've got all the information we need. Nothing to see here. Move it on. Case closed, suckers. Except that it's not, because you can't just wish a story like this away. This story keeps building. This story keeps getting bigger, and Miss Wilson-Raybould has provided phone calls, documents, which I have not had a chance to go through, but documented notes with emails and text messages to prove her side. And Justin Trudeau's story has changed multiple times in a shifting landscape of he said, she said, we didn't hear, we didn't know, I didn't hear about this until today. Who's got credibility here? It certainly isn't Justin Trudeau. It's incredible how far the press is willing to go to even carry water for this. Right? Like, nothing to see here, everybody. Move it on. There's lots to see here. And Mr. Trudeau is fooling himself if he thinks he can wish this away. I think, there's more theatrics to come. And if they don't get anything else passed before June, then the Conservatives have effectively made them lame ducks currently. But they're still doing lots of damage because of the ministries that are functioning and running and using the bad liberal laws to allow people into the country using taxpayer money and sending taxpayer money all around the world when Alberta, Canada, is in need of maintaining our taxpayer money within Canada rather than sending it around the world. It makes no sense. Makes no sense. So it's interesting to watch this whole scandal completely envelop the Liberals while they keep saying nothing to see here, everybody. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. It's Jody Wilson-Raybould who doesn't have credibility. The Prime Minister's fine. He's right and honorable. Right? It's laughable, isn't it? Because he's not. And here's the proof that he's not. Right? These are the inner circle. These are the people working at his behest. If Gerald Butts speaks, that is akin to Justin Trudeau speaking, right? That's how people in political circles function. Your chief of staff is basically you, right? It's a very, 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 very dicey situation. And not even to mention, but of course, within context, but I haven't mentioned the fact that 2 cabinet ministers have resigned. Principal secretary has resigned. Chief of the Privy Council has resigned. And there's been whisper campaigns and press saying we fully support the Prime Minister, which is clearly purchased by the Prime Minister, right? Like, this is because we know that he purchased the press with a $600 million payment over 5 years, $10 million a month. Incredible. So anyway, keep all of that in mind this October. Keep all of this in mind Monday, because they're trying to bury it on a Friday and have it go away. This is akin to detonating a smaller bomb when, a larger bomb could go off. But it's interesting to watch. I think Trudeau's going down. I think he is. I don't think he lasts till October, but I could be wrong. Thanks for watching, everybody. Do check out thepeoplespartyofcanada.ca. And yes, I think Mr. Bernier is still the best choice for Prime Minister in October. Yes, I do. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching, everybody.